Hello and welcome. You're watching India Ahead with me, Neha Khanna. Our big focus tonight. It's been over 3 decades since the mass killings of Kashmiri pundits, followed by their exodus from the Kashmir Valley. And while political parties over the years have endlessly played politics over the issue, no government till date has displayed any seriousness towards rehabilitating Kashmiri pundits, ensuring justice for them and paving the way for their return. The film Kashmir Files that recently released has brought the issue of the pain and the trauma of the Kashmiri pundits and the absence of any justice for them back into sharp focus. Many Pandit families gathered at Jantar Mantar in Delhi demanding justice for their loved ones who were massacred over 3 decades ago. Their demand? The terrorists believed to have played the most pivotal role in the tragedy of the Pandits, Yasin Malik and Farooq Ahmad Dar, better known as Bitta Karate, be hanged. The two men are currently lodged in Delhi's Tihar jail. But the entire case against them has been an absolute travesty, with the prosecution botching the investigation and the trial every step of the way. A Srinagar court, during one of the hearings against Bitta Karate, observed, and I quote, "The court is aware of the fact that the allegations against the accused are of a serious nature and carry a punishment of death sentence or life imprisonment, but the fact is that the prosecution has shown total disinterest in arguing the case." This pertains to the daylight firing that took place on 5th March 1990 at a van ferrying BSF personnel in Kashmir. A month before that, in February 1990, Bitta Karate and his associates had allegedly committed the cold-blooded murder of Kashmiri Pandit Satish Tikku, a social worker in Srinagar. 16 years in jail, yet the case against Karate has not yet been proved by the prosecution. And here's a shocking fact. Not a single member of victim Satish Tikku's family has ever been contacted by the police for their statement. Now, Bitta Karate is a terrorist who once allegedly boasted on camera that he had killed more than 20, probably 30 to 40 Kashmiri Pandits in the 1990s. 32 years later, even a charge sheet has not been filed against the accused in the Tikku murder case. The family has been running from pillar to post, but there is no justice in sight. So we're asking tonight, even as political parties continue to make a lot of noise about the tragedy of the Kashmiri Pandits, especially in the wake of the film Kashmir Files, when will the government display serious intent and take concrete measures to ensure justice for the Kashmiri Pandits and not ignore the real issue, only to be leveraged for votes during an election or whipping up communal sentiments?
गरीब जो मरे हैं आज तक उनके खानदानों को देखें, जो हमारे जितने कत्ल किए गए, हमारा वंदहामा केस हो गया, वहाँ दर्जनों फैमिली को मार दिए गए, तो उनको इंसाफ दी जाए और कश्मीरी पंडितों को एक ही जगह जल्द से जल्द बसा दिया जाए, वहाँ इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन हो और वहाँ इंडियन का बोलबाला हो।
कश्मीरी कम्युनिटी को इंसाफ मिले, फारूक अब्दुल्ला को जेल हो जाए, वो मास्टरमाइंड है इस सारी साजिश का।
32 long years, still no justice in sight. What is the way forward for Kashmiri Pandits? Let's discuss that with our panel of guests. Joining me on the show tonight is Rakesh Handu, a family friend of victim Satish Tikku, who was murdered brutally in Kashmir in 1990. Here with me in the studio is my colleague Manish Chibbar, who has tracked this story very closely. We also have with us Shesh Paul Ved, former Director General of Jammu and Kashmir Police, and Ahmed Ayaz, political analyst and secretary of the J&K Muslim Personal Law Board. We're also hoping to be joined by lawyer Utsav Benz, who is in fact fighting one of these many cases against terrorist Bitta Karate. Rakesh Handuji, let me start with you. Thank you for making the time and the effort to come to our studio to talk about this case, which is obviously a very personal and painful one for you. The question that I want to simply ask you is, you know, the travesty that we are talking about today, the fact that, you know, in Satish Tikkuji's case in particular, not a single family member's statement has been recorded till date by the prosecution, even as the family continues to run from pillar to post seeking justice. What does that tell us, sir, about our justice delivery system, and especially the manner in which all these cases pertaining to Kashmiri Pandits have been handled over the years?
Madam, I am very grateful to you that you give me a chance to speak. Basically, this person, Bitta Karate, I just want to tell you why people call him Karate. He was a communal type of a person. I know him personally, and he was a eve teaser also. He used to tease Hindu girls, Hindu women on Habakadal. Then he was, in fact, because Satish Tikku was a social activist, and he was a very, I would call, tiger of Habakadal, tiger of Kashmiri Pandits. So, Beta Karate was, yes, taking training of karate. His only ambition was to hit, because that time girl culture was not in Kashmir. And after some time, he was absconding. Suddenly, he appeared, and he called Satish Chikku. He went to his house at around 7 in the morning. His sister was there. He asked her, Ki, I want to meet Satish. Satish was sleeping because it was too early morning. And when he got up and he came down, so his I think sister was, she was just cutting vegetables. So he's because he was a brave, he was not scared of anybody. So her sister, his sister told him that she was feeling something, because there was a curfew. Situation was, worst in Kashmir.
Yeah.
So when he came out, पीछे से sister, she told, बाहर मत जाओ. Beta Karate was, searching you. But as usual, he was a brave person and he was not knowing what is going to happen. When he came out of his house, Beta was waiting. He was hiding somewhere. And Satish was wearing a farron, and it was 2nd February 1990. And when he came out, the Beta was standing. He asked him that you had come to my house, because they were around, the distance between their houses was almost 1 kilometer. And they knew each other. A lot of media is telling that he was a friend. He was no friend of Satish.
They were acquaintances.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. So then what he did, he just fired at him because he was, wearing farron. And I am telling you, I swear, because as far I know him, if this person would have known that he has come from Pakistan and he has got a gun with him, he would have handled him in a different way. And Beta Karate would have not been alive till date. I can give you a guarantee.
I completely understand what you're saying, but what is shocking is not just the manner in which these brutal massacres took place. What is even more shocking is the manner in which these cases have been dealt with over the years. Joining us on the phone line now is Utsav Benz, a lawyer who's in fact fighting one of these cases. Utsav, this is a complete travesty of justice. We are looking at the case of a terrorist who has boasted on camera about having killed dozens of Kashmiri pundits. 32 years later, you don't even have the prosecution filing a charge sheet against the man. The man was even able to come out of jail on bail a few years ago. Just what is going on with these cases, and is there really any hope for justice? More than 3 decades have passed by.
That question is for me?
Yes, Utsav, please go ahead.
No, it is absolutely a travesty of justice. Nowhere in India has anyone seen a case of bizarre where there is no trial, there are no hearings, there is no investigation. And to see the whole circumstances legally, Mr. Beta Karate seems to have been a state guest, and he had the immunity under the previous regimes, under the law of the President of India. Because this kind of immunity under a murder charge in a terror case is very serious. And the sense of impunity and the system of impunity which Mr. Beta Karate enjoyed is unparalleled. Nowhere in India has one seen a terrorist, a murderer, not be tried under 302 of the IPC.
This is shocking indeed. And Utsav, you are saying that, no government ever had the political will to ensure justice for Kashmiri pundits. Look, we are talking about 32 years. Many governments have come and gone, both in Jammu and Kashmir and at the centre. Fact of the matter is, a lot of political parties make a lot of noise, Utsav, about ensuring justice for Kashmiri pundits, but nobody has till date.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's not political will. It's active connivance. It is something that is intentional. To keep the trial pending for so many years, even the judge has recorded that while granting him bail, that the prosecution completely failed to take any interest in his case, opposing his bail. So it is a very shocking case. There should be a court of inquiry. There should be a commission to find out who all were the executive players, who were the public prosecutors, who were the investigating officers of all these faryas of Kashmiri Pandit murders. And they should be prosecuted for willfully not, obeying the CRPC And I mean, completely. I mean, this is also a destruction of evidence because 31 years have passed.
Exactly.
It will be very difficult.
We'll really have to wait and see if the prosecution can actually build a strong enough case against these terrorists. On that note, Utsav, we'll let you go. Thanks so much for speaking to India Ahead. Let me now go across to my colleague Manish Chibbar. Manish Chibbar, where does one even begin to talk about the tragedy of the Kashmiri Pundits and the sheer travesty that we've seen unfold in the courts? As Utsav just mentioned, the court in Srinagar observed during one of the hearings that the prosecution has shown total disinterest in arguing the case, even though the case is so serious that the accused could be sent to jail for life or even sentenced to death. This is a hardened terrorist we're talking about, who himself allegedly boasted that he had killed 30 to 40 Kashmiri Pundits. Not even a charge sheet against the man till date. The family's statement has not even been recorded in all these 32 years.
You know, and the travesty is that it is not a one-off case. You know, in case after case involving, you know, murders and targeted killings in the Kashmir Valley in the late 1980s, 89, 90, 91. You know, you have so many instances. Senior Air Force officers were mowed down or killed, you know, gunned down on the streets of Srinagar. One day before Republic Day in 1990, 4 people, including a squad leader, were killed. Eyewitnesses saw Yasin Malik fleeing from the spot. They identified him. In this case, there were eyewitnesses. But unfortunately, what has happened is that ever since, you know, everybody was at fault. Nobody followed up. Nobody ensured that the wheels of justice were moving, and for that I think the blame has to rest not just with the government of the day or successive governments. It also has to rest with the prosecution, with the investigators. For example, you know, how can you the state government or even the CBI not investigate and file a charge sheet and allow the matter against Yasin Malik to remain in suspended animation for 12 years, because from 2007 to 2019 there was a High Court stay. In 2019 finally the stay was vacated, and we have not heard ever since then what happened to that case. In the case of Mr. Tikku, again it's the same story. These damning observations of the court in the other case, they also pertain to, you know, attempt to assassinate Indian Air Force officers, sorry, BSF Jawans.
Yes.
So my point is that, you know, nobody seems to have bothered
Recent past to talk about what can and will be done to pave the way for these people, for example, to return to their homes, for the people who lost their loved ones to get justice in the trials that are going on forever and ever. Shesh Paulved. Manish Chibbar, my colleague, says that every institution in the system has failed the Kashmiri Pundits, whether it is the political establishment, the government, successive governments in Jammu and Kashmir and here at the center, whether headed by the Congress or the BJP, the police, the prosecution, every institution has let these people down. But Utsav Benz, the lawyer we were talking to earlier, said that the prosecution has dragged its feet because not only was there no political will to ensure justice for Kashmiri Pundits, he alleges that there has been political complicity in all of this. No government ever wanted justice for Kashmiri Pundits. What is your take? Who do you blame? Mr. Ved, can you hear me?
Yeah, its question is for me.
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
I think the bare minimum the criminal justice system and the country could do for these victims. Now, you can't bring their families who have been lost, family members who have been killed or lost. At least provide them minimum justice which they deserve. And so much of water has flown. 30 years is too long a time. The criminal justice system, I feel, is equally culpable and responsible, which constitutes the investigating wing, the prosecution, and the judiciary. And the initial effort was to be no doubt by investigating wing, and that is whichever, whether it is a J&K police or CBI or whatever investigating agencies doing the investigation. See, I understand in the 90s the investigation by J&K police I recall in the 90s was almost shattered. They were virtually, and I don't think any IO would have even dared to do a serious investigation against a person like Bita Karate or Yasin Malik. But so much of time has passed. So many governments came. So both at the state and center. Apart from them, what did prosecution do? Why directions were not issued to the investigating agency to wherever they were faltering to collect evidence and prosecute a person who has committed more than 30 murders. Today,
Mr. Ved, I'm sorry for interrupting you,
one
sir.
or two murders, he gets...
Yes, sir. Sir, my apologies for interrupting you, but I want to ask you a follow-up question. Since you've been the top cop of Jammu and Kashmir, many are saying that the blame lies with the Jammu and Kashmir police, with the manner in which they've carried out, or rather botched the investigation. What do you say as somebody who's headed that force in the past, number one? Number two, sir, more than 3 decades have passed by. Is it too late now? What about evidence that has probably been destroyed in all this time?
See, there is no doubt that blame goes to the then Jammu and Kashmir police 30 years back. But you are not going to get anything out of now that. What should be done is at least the witnesses who had seen all this and a kind of evidence which is the weapon of offense, the fingerprints, things which are not destroyed with time could be at least used for against the accused. Now, his statement before a police officer is not admissible. That is Indian Evidence Act. Yes. But he in his free will gave a interview in the media telling who all people he killed. I think that evidence should have been taken on record. And all these things put together, it is this can happen only in India, in a state like in a country like India. With more than 20 murders, you get scot-free.
You go scot-free. There are families that are willing to talk who've never been approached by the police. They've never bothered to record their statements. Let me go across to Ahmad Ayaz at this point. Ahmad Ayaz, I think it is very unfortunate that in the aftermath of the release of the film Kashmir Files, we've seen a lot of communal polling
of their rehabilitation and settlement remains the same. And in the process, if you say about 2 points I would like to make. One, that if you say about the courts, I think there had been court cases. There had been cases against the Bita Karate. There was a PSA possibly, and then that was decided by the court. And then there was again a case filed by Roots in Kashmir, which again got decided by the case. And now I think there's a case against him perhaps under the terror funding. I mean, these are the things which are, taking place. But since you are under a system, and definitely we'll have to go with the system, we'll have to believe in the system. What has technically gone wrong, that the governments must be knowing, because it was purely the governments to deal with the issue, so far as courts are concerned, so far as their rehabilitation is concerned. If we say that one government has failed in dealing with the issue, then what happened the next government?
No, I agree.
I feel
it's successive governments. We're not saying it's just one government.
There are successive governments.
Yes.
Possibly there must be something technical, or they must be trying to derive the political.
Okay, technical. I find it hard to believe that argument. But has this issue been kept alive for political mileage? That is a very important point. And I want to put that question to somebody who lost a dear friend. I want to ask you this question, Rakesh Handuji. that, it's been over 3 decades and political parties make so much noise, so much breast beating about, who cares the most about Kashmiri Pundits. A lot of tears have been shed by our netas. But with your hand on your heart, sir, do you believe there's any government, any political party that truly cares about justice for Kashmiri Pundits? Or do you believe they're more interested in keeping the issue alive for votes, for electoral gains, and maybe sometimes also for whipping up communal frenzy?
I think, ma'am, you must not be aware. I was just, Googling. Beta Karate's wife, Abbas Khan, she is a KS officer with government of Jammu and Kashmir. And she proudly says in a statement, she is proud to marry a person like Beta Karate who has murdered us, who has killed us, who claims on, media, admits that he does not know the number after 20 how many he has killed. This is a shame.
Yes.
And the fact is, I am sorry to say, when BJP government was there, she was made a member of GST Council. This is the shame. This is the seriousness of government. She is still working as a KS officer. Can government suspend her tomorrow or terminate her tomorrow? She is a wife of killer who has given a statement that she is proud to get married to a killer of Kashmiri Pundits.
It is shocking.
This is a shame. This is shocking.
Yes, indeed.
And secondly, I just want to tell you, when this migration happened, we were not cowards. A lot of media says that Kashmiri Pundits bagode the.
Ji.
No, there were people like Satish Tiku. Unfortunately, he was killed. There were many people
Ji.
who were, in Hindi, I say, हम किसी को छेड़ते नहीं थे, जो छेड़ता था उसको छोड़ते ही नहीं थे.
But sir, परवाह तो किसी ने नहीं की. You'll agree. कोई political party हो, कोई सरकार हो, किसी ने परवाह नहीं की. बस issue को alive रखने में interest है.
मैं आपको वही interest बता रहा हूँ. When migration happened, I was working for my community which was scattered. I was working at Geeta Bhavan.
Yes.
We went to different organizations to give us arms. Because I was 22-year-old, my friend, my colleague, my brother, my neighbor, they were raped like Sarla Tikku, Satish Tikku, Tiklal Teplu. Every day there was one or another news coming to Jammu. We went to them, give us arms. At least we can go and fight back for our rights.
Yeah.
We were not going to fight with Indian army or Indian forces. We had everybody in this country has a democratic right to defend himself.
And sir, till date, rehabilitation के लिए क्या किया गया है? What has been done for the rehabilitation of Kashmiri Pundits? Is there an environment that's conducive for their safe return? Is there a single Kashmiri Pandit who feels safe enough to go back very quickly?
Our demand is very simple.
Yes.
Till the time we are rehabilitated at one place,
Ji.
Arms training is given to us because we don't want same thing, because this is not the first exodus. People don't know after Kashmir files. People know that this was the exodus in 1990.
Wanted adjournment and the judge refused to grant.
Central agency, which is neutral, which does not get affected by the local environment, and as Manish was saying, witnesses are scared of going to the valley to depose before the honorable court. I think if these cases are tried outside J&K or maybe in Jammu region, that will instill confidence in the witnesses, and whatever evidence could be collected by the new investigating agency. I think the minimum that this country owes to Kashmiri Pandit community is justice. You cannot bring those people back. At least provide them
justice. The least
justice.
you can do is provide justice to the families who are still grieving and mourning 3 decades later. Therefore, a new investigating agency, cases being transferred outside of Jammu and Kashmir, could that be a way forward? At the end of the day, what's important for us to remember is that these are families who continue to suffer. They are a nowhere people, and no political party, no government seems to actually care about them. So enough is what these political parties and governments need to be told. Enough noise. It is time for action now. On that note, I'd like to thank my entire panel for joining me on the show, and thanks very much to the viewers for watching.